Dynamite download.
AEW 2020, John Silver.
Special event, as you can see, SPD.
For a splashing good time. January recruitment.
I come along, you know. I come along in the ring.
I mean, I would not want to hear that. I would not want to.
Welcome to Dynamite Download. Another special edition of Dynamite Download, Sunday edition. Big weekend for Crayfish, coming off his Join Crayfish January baby shower, expecting the first member of the Crayfish order in a few months. So changing things up.
Gonna have a little Britt Baker fan running around is what's gonna happen. They're gonna immediately be indoctrinated into the heel life, bud. I'm gonna be rooting for MJF and DMD at birth. I love it. It's gonna be great.
So I know what. Yeah, I'm gonna get you a onesie that says heel on it.
I like it. That little peanut's gonna be more than happy to rock Dad's favorite heel gear. That's for sure. AEW needs baby gear. That's the next trend.
That's what we're gonna. Dynamite Download needs baby gear.
I
bro.
like it, man. Let's do it. Let's make some.
So we need some kid marks.
Untapped market. AEW wrestling and Dynamite Download baby gear.
That's right.
And let's not baby into this show, SPD. We have a lot of content to talk about. We gotta get ourselves jumping in. Man,
That's
this
for sure.
show. Anytime like we miss our Wednesday nights, and thank God Wednesdays Dynamite's
Can't
coming
wait
back.
to be back on normal schedule with y'all.
It's so nice to get back to the routine. I think all AEW fans miss that. But when you have a weekend where it's Friday and Saturday and you have back-to-back shows, I mean, my goodness, it feels like it's rapid fire, dude. And the amount of content, it's like when you have the weekend like this with the tournament, the world title tournament kind of jump starting, it feels like a little mini pay-per-view weekend. It really does, man. Unbelievable stuff.
Just the upcoming shows to Road to Full Gear. I put it on our Twitter. I'm like, it feels like we're getting pay-per-view matches nonstop of all the stuff we saw last night.
Oh my God.
Leading up to Rampage and Dynamite, man, the cards are so full, and they are going to be full until Full Gear. And that's what I love about tournament style matches, as we're seeing here with the world title eliminator tournament kicking things off. We saw the natural Dustin Rhodes opening the show, and then we saw his brother closing the show. So it was a Rhodes to the top sandwich we got to here at Dynamite.
I like that.
Both great matches, but this one especially, man, I love the opening match slot because you get so much action and nothing is, hindered by any commercials most of the time. But man, did both these guys bring it. The crowd was hot for both guys. They were eating this match up, man.
Yeah.
The chants and the back and forth. And anytime we see Dustin Rhodes in the ring, he just puts on incredible performances, especially at his age. That guy is his stamina is very impressive.
It is.
His in-ring work, his general, the way he talks, and I loved seeing him in the ring, but I loved how he was like getting fired up, and he said the MFer, and then Tony Schiavone dropped the F-bomb on live TV as well to kind of rebuttal that as well. But as I saw Bryan Danielson come to the ring, I was like, what happened, man? Did he just get ripped in like 2 weeks or something? I mean, like he was just like, he looked like he was thinned out and he was just jacked, but it was great that what we're seeing out of Bryan Danielson is, and the announcers pointed out, every one of his victories has been with a different finisher. And so we saw that again tonight, a different finisher as well. So we haven't seen, a typical, high spot, the same finisher over and over, which is nothing's wrong with that, but just it's showing the diversity of Bryan Danielson. It's showing the skill level, the technique, and his in-depth pedigree of arsenal that he has, and it's really, really impressive stuff, man, to be able to put on different styles with different finishers to really kind of handpick and what fits the best. So both these guys hit it out of the park, in my opinion, with this match. Really incredible way to start the show and start. Man, what did you think? I mean, it was high energy from the start and very methodical too.
Yeah, and I think some of that when you get a Dustin Rhodes match, man. I mean, I think that he's become so purposeful in the way his matches are played out, and there's a lot of physicality in this match. I mean, I liked that brawler. We're used to seeing Bryan Danielson matches, especially here in AEW, have been the technical showcase. Where especially most recent Bobby Fish, really showcasing his ability to be just outsmart you, out wrestle you. But there were moments when Dustin was kind of like checking that and saying, how smart can you be when you get smacked in the face, when you get punched in the face. A lot of nice blend of power versus technical ability, a blend of that brawler versus that wrestler. I like that, and it really was the story of this matchup. I also love the Gold Dust callback that we got to see, where he kind of did the corner punches and did the little Gold Dust callback. That was a really cool little moment, and it served its purpose. You talked about this. Bryan Danielson looks absolutely revitalized. He looks like the best version of him that we've seen. Truly physically, he looks incredible. And that is something that he touched on in his Rhodes to the Top promo between him and Eddie Kingston. For those of you who watched the Rhodes to the Top, putting in the work outside the ring and tapping into your potential, not just letting it be untapped potential. So, this is something that you could tell is going to be a storyline arc for Bryan Danielson, a guy who has really had to fight and scratch and claw just to make sure that he can be in the wrestling world still.
Right.
Doctors and countless people kind of wrote him off and basically said your career is over.
Yeah.
And for him to come back with the way he has, let's allow that to also sink in. Both of these guys were both at some point in time written off for dead in the pro wrestling industry, Dustin and Bryan, and they both have come back and they put on a hell of a start to this show. Really a fiery matchup. And that energy carried over to the next segment because FTR and the Lucha Bro, the Penta with Alex Abrahantes, that was just, to me, pure fire.
Was it ever?
Like FTR was bringing it on the mic, talking plenty of smack. And I don't know about you, but I was really digging the vibes that we were getting off of Penta and Alex in this one too. This feud is money to me. This is, I'm such a sucker for tag team wrestling. I'm such an FTR fanboy. And I really like FTR being presented as kind of like those bad dudes who, you don't like, who know how good they are, who aren't going to kind of have no problem punching you in the face and telling you you suck. I dig it. And I think, I called for it weeks before they got this opportunity to get those AAA tag titles. The tag division needs this resurgence. The tag division needs to go through this revitalization, and there's no better tag team to lead that. Those guys are the top guys, and that you could tell. TK, I said it back then. Whenever I knew it, he had that ace up his sleeve. Whenever he was ready for the tag division to get put front and center again, he had that tag team that he knew. All we got to do is turn to Dax and Cash, and these guys are going to make it work. And I'm really excited to see what they can do against the Lucha Bros in this upcoming feud. I like that too. I also like personally that you're starting to see a little bit more of the darkness come out of Penta.
It needs it, and I think it's great.
Dude, we had some conversations with Brian Cage. And we at length, I talked to him about the beginning of that interview about Lucha Underground and how special Lucha Underground was, Penta was an absolute freak in Lucha Underground, and there's some darkness to this dude that I know that the Lucha Brothers are well known for their flips and their their amazing synchronized offense, but bro, there's going to come a point when Penta's going to just start snapping elbows, breaking arms, and I'm really excited to see them go toe-to-toe with Dax and Cash.
I mean, these are Young Bucks included, top 3 teams in AEW, if not the world.
Tag wrestling, man. Yeah.
The GTTOAT for sure.
There you go.
I know. I'm getting it down. GTTOAT. To say it really fast. But I loved how we got to showcase Cash a lot in this promo as well. And, obviously Dax has been the workhorseman of the Pinnacle, and the guy has just been extremely good in the ring and on the mic. Everything overall, really just chiseling out his overall stardom. And now we get Cash to a little bit of a spotlight on this, and he delivered in every sense. And I can't wait for this feud. Lucha Bros cannot lose to them, but they're going to put on quite the match for sure. Like 2 contrasting styles that have worked in the past and will continue to work in such a great way. It's going to be, we're going to get this match, obviously, most likely Full Gear, well-deserved. And hopefully, as you said, resurge this tag division. I hope we get some more tag matches, because the tag division is so deep. It is so important. And it is so incredible when the amount of teams that are true tag teams. So I can't wait for this. And, speaking of Pinnacle stuff, we saw one of the, I think the best segment of the night. I mean, there were some great segments tonight, but
man, Pinnacle
the Sting and MJF segment was brutal, to say the least.
Piece of garbage, though, isn't he?
My gosh!
Going back and
watching Luger, the stuff he was saying about Darby, man, when he was screaming and fired up. I mean, there is no one better with delivery on the mic than MJF right now in All Elite Wrestling or in wrestling. Period. No one, and it pains me to say it, because we know how much of a big fan he is here of Dynamite Download. He's gave us a couple glowing compliments, both in person and online, and endorsements. But you got to give the devil his due.
You're making me think about at All Out, where we gave him some stickers, and he ended up putting them on Chuck Taylor's shirt and throwing them on the ground,
the shoe,
such a dirt
bottom
ball.
Of the shoe.
This guy is such a jerk, and man, I guess we should never be surprised at what he's willing to do.
Right.
But some of those lines, with Lex Luger, talking about being in a wheelchair, and just how ruthless he was, dude. I mean, MJF is just he's detestable. He is absolutely, and he's great at it. I mean, he is a heat magnet, but my God, even a guy who's team heel, he's hard to stomach sometimes. What I'll say is, the segment with Sting was fire.
Perfect.
It was
Perfect
awesome
stuff.
Awesome to see what the Pinnacle could do when they're clicking. I mean, it's great to see that stable, even though it was at the expense of an icon. Looking strong.
Sorry, Lori.
But I liked the follow-up segment a lot, even more than this one. I thought that the backstage stuff with Wardlow kind of confronting MJF, we've been waiting for it for so long. The tea leaves are starting to show.
Finally.
Yeah, man. I really like it. And the accountability buddy, that line from MJF where Spears is going to be the accountability buddy to Wardlow, just keeping him in check. The drama is only going to get escalated from here. I really am digging.
It makes perfect sense, man. The stuff like this, essentially kind of trying to replace Wardlow as the henchman for MJF with Sean Spears. Obviously there's going to be tension there, and then Wardlow will ultimately take out Spears, getting on his path to MJF. So you can make that turn on Wardlow that much more significant. And then when he beats Spears and MJF is left all alone, that gives us the ultimate payoff. Because if Wardlow turns on MJF right away, obviously we all love that and see that, but give us that slow burn, man. Give it to us, in Spears to be essentially jumping on the MJF grenade for him, I think makes a lot of sense. And then you can have the natural transition of Spears and MJF kind of being buddies, because MJF obviously doesn't need anyone, but with that mouth,
it helps.
It does help a lot.
Yeah, it helps to have a guy who has his back and kind of can be the buffer, who can kind of between him and his opponents, and having a guy like the chairman, who again, like what we've been talking about in the character work that Shawn Spears has been putting in.
Excellent.
He's been kind of showing that, like, that hair trigger, where he can kind of almost be like viewed as the loose cannon of the Pinnacle. Guy who his temper can get the best of him sometimes, and having him be just kind of a wild chairman going after, it'll be interesting. Really, like and you said it best, the slow burn. I've been chomping at the bit to see this Wardlow turning on MJF, but their AEW, as always, really knows how to pace things and knows how to stretch things out. And I have a feeling that this is going to build and build and build. I'm hoping that it's around the end of the year where we see this finally come to a head. I really like this.
I mean, that would be the perfect cherry on top, because we picked Wardlow for breakout star of 2021, for him to break out right at the end. Better late than never, just like our show was delayed a little bit tonight. Better late than never. But we would all welcome it, especially with, when I was talking with Bonds on Rampage Rundown, that he's thinking Mox leaning into more of a heel tendencies and possibly a heel turn. So you have Mox turn heel, essentially Wardlow goes to team babyface. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah.
They can really push him to the sky, man, as he deserves. As soon as he turns babyface, I mean, then you can have a natural matches with, Miro, which would be a Hoss matches, even.
Yeah, man.
Click with the Elite and stuff.
We can go on and on about what Wardlow can do.
Wardlow Appreciation Day
and I think that it's a beautiful thing, because we've said it for a long time, like from the beginning. I've been a Wardlow guy. I'm a Cleveland boy.
Oh, I know.
I love me some Wardlow, and I think that the potential there is limitless. Eventually, it's going to happen. Our buddy MJF just tweeted seconds ago. Have you said thanks to Shawn Spears today? So MJF is definitely starting to show a little bit of love to Spears, and the way that this could all play out, it's going to lead to some comedy in this too, not just like beat downs and intensity, and again, MJF being a dirtball like we all know he is, talking, there's going to be a lot of memorable stuff, but the accountability and then some. I think there's going to be a lot of humor involved in this coming forward, and then it's going to lead to an absolute just bloodbath, a beating like nobody's business when Wardlow finally snaps.
I'm gonna respond on him and say we just said thanks to Wardlow on our live show.
I'm already on top of it too.
Put our link in there and say we just said thanks to Wardlow for that.
Yeah.
So if we get the salt of the earth on our show, we will definitely recircle back on that. But as we're transitioning,
he just responded.
Oh, responded to you?
He said "fuck off" in standard MJF fashion.
Did you put a link to our show?
No. On that note, let's move on.
Come on, you got to put a link to the show for that, bro. Just say we just talked about this.
Hey, let's not let MJF get us off track. This is what he would love to do.
No, we need to see that in the chat so we can call him out.
I invited him. Trust me. He's so that said, I mean, let's get into let's. Enough time has been spent on MJF. The guy's a total jerk, as always. Let's move on to a feud that you've been talking a lot about. That I know you're excited about. The continuous development of Penelope Ford and the Bunny, their character arc. Although she came up short in the match against Ruby Soho, again, I think great showing by Penelope by Superbad, and really good stuff as far as Bunny and Penelope continuing to build that bond. They just seem like naturals together.
I agree. I think this pairing is really nice. I think they're getting better and better. And the outside when Bunny came to the ringside, man, her just cackle is so deafening. It's so bad. It's so good at the same time. But the pairing with them, I think, like I've said before, and I'll keep echoing it, this would be a great first tag team champions if they ever do bring women's tag team championships anytime soon. But this feud between Soho and Ford and the Bunny, and then we're seeing now Velvet at the end. It's a nice sub feud to what's going on right now to give depth to the division. Penelope Ford has put on some great matches and in the past, and I think she's really comfortable in the ring. So this pairing for the first round was a good first round, but I mean, there's no better first round coming up than what we're going to see in Deeb and Sheeb. Sheeta and Deeb, but this match alone, I really did enjoy it. The crowd is definitely hot for Soho, and her and Statlander, I think will be a nice match going forward. I think Statlander definitely is going to take that one. But overall, I think once Soho gets, potentially eliminated from this match or this tournament, to have, a tag team with Velvet is kind of intriguing just for a little bit and stretch this feud out because Penelope Ford and Bunny together, I think, are really good. I think they're like great TV and great pairing together. And it was a nice, I like when they have each other's back. It's a nice, girl romance, and, they are developing that trust. And ultimately, I think they're going to start picking up the W's in the women's division.
Well, yeah, I think it's evident that when we looked at the tournament, we haven't had a chance to really just kind of just freely talk about what we think is going to play out in this TBS tournament. But Ruby is definitely one of the favorites, and for her to have a big win against, I think they've been building up Penelope and the Bunny in a way that made this match feel like a real test and a challenge. But I think that Ruby is clearly one of the favorites in this. I liked where Red Velvet kind of coming out. Obviously, she's got that matchup with Bunny. So it all made sense. It was a great overall showing. And I got to say, as somebody who watched Ruby in the competition in WWE, I know that WWE's been getting a lot of slack for not, the women's division, the women's revolution being a big part of the brand, but not giving them in-ring time. And I'll say this, just kind of not to pile on that movement or that sentiment, but I will say, this is a good example. Ruby is a great example to me because she didn't feel special in WWE. Her in-ring work was always solid, but and there were times in which she was presented as a real top threat, but in AEW, they've allowed her to really go in the ring, and they're allowing the women to have actual time battling it out in the ring. Right. And because of that, we get to see a veteran like Ruby really shine. And I'm more impressed by her work in the last few weeks in AEW than I have been in her entire run in WWE. So definitely strong showing for her tonight. And I think a bright future for the tournament and the division going forward.
Well said, man. And this tournament is very exciting stuff for sure. Moving on to the Bobby Fish Anthony Green match. This is, Bobby Fish has really entered AEW with in a storm. I mean, he's been entered high. I mean, he got a title match, his first match, and he's going against Bryan Danielson, and now he's picked up 2 wins. And so I think we're seeing. I mean, he is a superstar. A nice addition to the roster that is going to be, now we're going to see him go against CM Punk. I mean, talk about a awesome first month in AEW. You have a title match versus Sammy Guevara, potentially, one of the pillars of AEW. Then you have Bryan Danielson, and now you have CM Punk, the best in the world. I mean, it's incredible stuff. And I really I did like his Bryan Danielson match, his methodical pacing, his aggression, and his strikes and his holds and all that and everything in between. So we saw him really lean into that heel side at the end when he started, attacking after the match and all that. And so we got CM Punk to come out and for a nice pop from the crowd. And now we're going to see that match, CM Punk's Dynamite debut, Bobby Fish versus CM Punk. Another different style of matchup from CM Punk. I mean, it's such a diversified roster, and it's fun to get those diversified matches of totally different styles and in matches that will, be fought differently. We talked about, when we did some of our interviews, is going, like Thunder Rosa, preparing for that opponent, doing your homework,
Right.
adjusting your offense accordingly. And,
Right.
Bryan Danielson has been doing a great job of that. And CM Punk has been doing a great job of that. And so this is another person he's going to have to adjust his offense for sure going forward when he faces Bobby Fish next week on that.
Yeah, I mean, Punk starting off with Darby was I feel like a great starting point for him, right? In the sense that it allowed him to go against a guy who really lays it all out there and makes his opponent look great. Tonight, we had to see that extended in Punk's run. He had a chance to go against Hobbs, and now he's going to be going against Bobby Fish, who is a veteran and is as technically sound as anybody on the roster. So again, you're going to allow Punk to, like you said, pivot to a different style, but you can trust that he's going to be going in the ring with someone who is going to be able to match him toe to toe. And it's going to test him in different ways. So I hear you. I think they've handled Punk's return as well as you could hope for. Sprinkling him in on commentary, keeping his sense of humor.
Sprinkle.
It's all good, positive stuff, the way that they've handled his run.
Absolutely. And it's 0% to me getting stale by anything at all. So I absolutely have been enjoying this run a lot, and it's not overkill. I don't think they're overkilling things at all. I think they're picking their spots, they're picking their matches as much as possible, and it's working well for that. So let's shift into the second AEW World Title Eliminator Tournament match that we saw. One that started off with a bang. Really aggressive stuff. I love the hard-hitting start. I have been really digging the Eddie Kingston, Lance Archer, John Moxley feuds that have been going on. This was a hard chopped battle, a hard physical battle, as expected, with two grinders, two essentially journeymen that are, going to do whatever it takes to get to the top. And it was unfortunate what we saw at the end. Thankfully, Lance Archer tweeted out and everything that he's okay, but it was a scary spot. I mean, this is a big man that can do a lot of impressive stuff. And, as Taz tweeted out and others have tweeted out, it doesn't matter, things happen, and, this is a serious business. All that aside, we hope Lance is okay, and we are obviously huge Murder Hawk monsters and love Lance Archer, and can't wait to see what he has in store next. Who knows if this was the actual planned finish in terms of Eddie going over or not, but regardless, the match I thought was really interesting. I like Lance's non-traditional offense, picking up a guy from the crowd, using him as a weapon, which we've seen in the past. I love that spot. I always am a sucker for that kind of spot. Choke slamming into someone and just ragdolling, the ring generals or the ring apron guys and gals and stuff. So I think that, we'll get over that and Lance will move on and it'll be fine. But what more intriguing was, like you talked about in that Road to the Top promo, was the Eddie Kingston promo and the Bryan Danielson stuff. So I am more and more intrigued. I was wanting to see Lance Archer and Bryan Danielson, but now I'm really invested in the Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson after that promo. I think, once again, as we just talked about, adjusting your styles, this is a brawler. Dustin Rhodes is a brawler too, but he's got a lot of technical stuff. Eddie Kingston is, talk about Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson with the chop battles. Imagine Kingston throwing chops, and then Bryan Danielson throwing those kicks. Kick, chop battle back and forth like that. It's going to be like
I like that. I can
absolutely
already see it
echoing.
happening in my head. I like what you're saying, dude. Absolutely.
What'd you think of the match overall?
Yeah, man. It's hard not to on the heels of that match. It's hard not to just kind of focus on the way that ended. It was brutal to see the way that Lance took that. I mean, it really was almost like you could tell he was trying to fully complete that rotation, and man, he landed like right on his forehead. Was pretty brutal to watch that, but yeah, I too am with you. I like seeing Lance, and just his style in the ring. I was sitting there on the couch watching it. And I was just like, man, Lance is one of those guys that even as he's getting older, he still has it. He has and he's so unique in AEW. And yeah, we've seen more big men start to bloom and blossom on the roster, but Lance is still one of those guys that is still, he stands out in the landscape of the company.
Right.
I'm a big fan of his. I do think that Eddie versus Danielson's going to is going to be an intriguing matchup from the sense that both vets there. You know that after that promo, it's going to be very personal. It's going to be, you could tell Eddie's got that chip on his shoulder. I'm intrigued on where it's going to go. But yeah, I mean, for me, it was more of like, it was a brutal match. Two guys who, like, again, this was the rubber match. So Kingston came out, and it felt like Kingston was almost mad that the match ended that way. You know what I mean? You could tell he almost was mad that it was like, man, like he wanted it to end the way that those two warriors deserved it to end. Right. But I think from the two, the matchup styles, I think that Danielson is the better matchup with Kingston. I like their pairing together.
Yeah, I could totally see that, and it is going to be a great second round match in that tournament as well. You know, we talked earlier in the show, someone so repulsive you can't not help but to love what they're doing, and Dan Lambert fits that bill to a T, man. I can't stand hearing him talk, but I can't stop listening because he is so good on the mic. And this promo battle between Dan Lambert plus the Men of the Year and Sammy Guevara really was, intriguing, and I really enjoyed it. But, Sammy to me stood out, and I loved how Dan kind of called him out too, saying, wow, you're in the talk in the back because you can't hold the stick worth, what. And so for him to call him out and to play that up, I think, yes, in the past, Sammy hasn't been, that strong on the mic, but he hasn't really needed to. Now he's kind of breaking free from Jericho's shadow in a sense a little bit, just because he's holding that title. He's going to need to do that. They set some pretty high stipulations on this match next week with Ethan Page and Sammy Guevara, which I think is going to be a show-stealing match for sure. Leaving the Inner Circle and losing the belt and not getting the match. But, definitely Sammy held his own on this. I loved how the Inner Circle came out at the end, Santana and Ortiz and Jake Hager scaring away the Men of the Year and everyone, and kind of standing tall, especially after what we saw in the last few weeks of them getting beat down pretty consistently. But and so how did you think Sammy did? With his better promos on live TV?
I liked how they, Lambert kind of addressed the elephant in the room. We all here agree. I mean, Sammy's got a ton of upside and a ton of potential. And now as the TNT champion, I think it's like he's been cemented as a made man. But the elephant in the room has always been, this is a guy who can absolutely kill it in the ring, but some of his promos feel a little awkward. And we sometimes forget how young this kid is.
Right.
And we expect him to just be on the same level as some of these other guys that, like we just got done talking about, like a jerk like MJF, not like we expect everybody to just be able to come out and cut these killer promos.
Mm-hmm.
And there are talents where that's not necessarily that's not their MO. And we're gonna talk about one with an upcoming match. We're gonna talk about Jungle Boy is another guy who gets his work. He lets his actions talk for him most of the time. He walks the walk, But I gotta say, this was probably the best Sammy promo that I've heard. It rivals that's the times in which he was kind of talking about splitting away from the inner circle and kind
Yeah,
of
that was
his
some fire
interaction
stuff.
with
Yep.
MJF back then. It was up there with that.
Agree.
But, he wasn't backing down. He went after All Ego. I thought his going after Ethan Page about how it's very fitting that you're All Ego because you're the only one who gives a shit about what you've done here. I mean, with the belt around his waist, that carries a little extra, like a little sting. It carries a little extra force when he says something like that. So I really dug that. I thought that worked well.
Agree.
And I'll tell you, man, Sammy versus Ethan Page is a matchup that I like. That is going to be an absolute killer of a match. I think so highly of All Ego. I think that guy has got what it takes to be, in that upper tier of a company.
Agree.
So this is going to be a nice showcase for him, getting a great opportunity against Sammy for that TNT title.
Agree. Completely agree on this. I can't wait. And we talked about earlier in the show, just the stacked cards that are upcoming on the upcoming Dynamites and Rampage as well. But Jungle Boy and Brandon Cutler went to, as the announce team likes to say, the associate stooge, and he lives up to that stooge persona better than anyone that I've seen in a while, man, with that cold spray, the mask, and the jumpsuit, and all the shenanigans that he does and the overacting. I think it is an absolute home run. And we told him in person at All Out, and it was incredible. I mean, I saw a gif of him getting thrown through a table, and he's still spraying his cold spray in the air when he's getting thrown through a table. I mean, he's living this character, and it is some great stuff. And that cold spray stuff, I mean, he should get a sponsorship because that works good. I mean, we use that firsthand, and it definitely works good. But overall, obviously, this match had its place for what happened after the match. A couple of quick high spots, and Jungle Boy calling out the Elite, and someone like you said before, not really known for being on the mic, but the more experience you have in the mic, the better you get, and the more you're on it, the better you'll get. So to give him that spotlight to kind of call out the Elite. Baby steps. You don't have to go out there and cut a 5-minute MJF promo because not many people can do that. Very few can do it so smoothly and grab your attention for that every second. Jungle Boy is working on it, and it's growing, but it had its purpose, calling out the Elite and putting Cutler back in the snare trap. And Cutler was whining for someone to help him out. Help me, please help me. But Adam Cole finally came out and the crowd was going wild for it. Then, the Young Bucks come back with a cheap shot behind him and super kick Jungle Boy. Then they attack him and give him the BTE trigger and then throw him off the freaking stage onto a table. So it was a pretty, convincing beatdown. No one was out there to help him. We haven't seen Christian Cage in a bit. We haven't seen, Luchasaurus was thrown through a table. I talked about this with Bonds on Rampage Rundown, but I'm really curious. We've seen a lot of mix and match matches between Team AEW and Team Elite.
Yep.
Where do you see this going, and what match would you potentially want to see at Full Gear or going forward? What would you want to see? To me, I chose, obviously a rematch with Jungle Boy and Adam Cole would be really great with certain stipulations. I think that would tear the house down, but I'm almost more intrigued of a multi-man match so you can
agreed
for that. So what combination or what would you be most interested in seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you that it needs to be there needs to be some sort of multi-man dynamic going. I mean, we have to have the Bucks involved. There's too much talent in the Elite not to have them featured in some way beyond just the Kenny world title match. So, I mean, off the spot, I know AEW is going to build towards something great. I just think that there's definitely legs to this, and the more you get to see Jungle Boy interacting with guys on that level, the more it feels like he belongs personally.
Right.
So, yeah, what they're doing is working for sure.
So what if you had to book a Full Gear match? I think it would be really, is there someone that's kind of on the shelf or a surprise where Team Elite could kind of recruit in their corner? Like if you had, let's say that 5-on-5 match, or which would include the Young Bucks, or even a 3-on-3, I guess, maybe Young Bucks and Adam Cole, or Young Bucks, Adam Cole, and the Good Brothers versus, Team AEW, which we've seen Christian Cage, Jurassic Express, and, Frankie Kazarian, doing something like that. Is there maybe like an ace in the hole that we could see as a surprise being their ultimate, trump card that they can take them down finally? No one comes to mind, but it would be great to have some kind of surprise debut where it can help Team
even
AEW.
the odds. Yeah. I mean, they talked about Tony Nese being the hottest free agent, one of the hottest free agents out there. Who knows? He could be he can make a debut. But honestly, seeing Adam Cole and the Bucks, that they need to have some sort of comeuppance for what they did to Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy backstage. Right. So
Luchasaurus is so over right now.
Maybe Marco Stunt gets involved. He and Adam Cole can go toe to toe. There's going to be some major, repercussions for sure. When Luchasaurus comes back, he's going to want some vengeance. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the crowd is going to go bananas for it as well. So moving on to the main event, and you said, and we all agree, one of the more compelling stories going on right now with Cody Rhodes, like what's going to happen with him? I was, very intrigued as we were counting down the minutes remaining with Dynamite, like where they're going to go with this. There's a lot of high spots. We got one of the biggest spots of the match was the crossroads through the table, but it was in picture. Cody came out to a lot of boos. We heard the Cody sucks chant. We had members of the Nightmare Factory and the Nightmare family come out to ringside, Brock and Lee. Yep. And Arn Anderson was even in the ring, dropped the spine buster, got the mist in the face. Get the Glock chance for Big Arn Anderson, which is pretty funny. This was an intense match, an emotional match. The crowd was still not on Team Cody right now.
I know.
So, but I was happy with the finish personally. I'm still, I'm not sold on where they're still going with this. I was hoping to get more of a storyline or, a direction that we're going to see, but I'm still a little lost, but I'm happy with the finish.
It's hard. It's difficult to feel confident about anything where they're going with it because the crowd reaction is so, it feels so odd for AEW. Is the fans are always so, to me, usually they know they can stick to, there's usually the clear cut heels and baby faces in the company, and Cody is really one of those guys who's starting to blur those lines, and I don't think it's anything he's doing. I think the fans are just there's a segment of the audience that is just turned on him, and doesn't feel like there's anything that he can do to gain them back, and so it's understandable that I think that you're kind of struggling a little bit with where this story is going. I personally, I love Cody Rhodes. I think that he's
I do too.
I think he's as good as it gets in pro wrestling from an all-around standpoint, a true veteran who knows how to get things done in the ring and on the stick. Mm-hmm. But Malachi, I think part of it is because he's going against a guy like Malachi, who is inherently dude's an occult guy. He's got a tattoo of a demon on his back. He's clearly the bad guy visually, but he is so good at so many things that it's easy to fall in love with his character. And because of that, you're going to have people who do not want Malachi's momentum to be derailed, and they don't want Cody to squash Malachi. I think there's a lot of intrigue here, man.
Yeah.
I think that this is not done either. I don't think that this is done.
Really?
I think that there's still more to it. I don't think that one win is going to be the end of this. I think that there's going to be more to it down the road. Full Gear's right around the corner, man.
How do you have 4 matches though within, a couple months? I don't know where they go with this.
Yeah, I get it.
This is, like I said, one of the more intriguing storylines that I'm very interested about.
I don't think that Malachi is going to win like he did against Cody and then take a loss and then just move on. I think that there's going to be some kind of repercussions, and it might be, you know, it might be at the expense of those around Cody. If watching Rhodes to the Top, a big part of that story arc has been Brandy wanting to get more involved again in wrestling and getting her getting back into the fold. Imagine if Malachi spit the mist in Brandy's face and did something, elevated things that could make things even that much more personal. I don't think that Malachi is going to back down. I think that there's going to be something that pulls Cody back in and really ups the ante heading into Full Gear.
Yeah, that would be pretty interesting as well. But wow, what a show that we saw last night, and what a show we're getting next week. This tournament is shaped. Both tournaments are shaping up to be some great stuff. We will be back at a regularly scheduled time Wednesday night after Dynamite, and so will Dynamite be back at its regular scheduled time. Thank you all for joining us on a special Sunday night edition of Dynamite Download. Better late than ever. This one is episode 56, but we will be back. And we hope you have the great week this week. And
can't wait to see everybody on Wednesday, man.
Yeah, buckle up, because this card on Wednesday is going to be pretty incredible stuff. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you soon.